The North Node is in Taurus 10. A Red Cross nurse. Compassion. We are able to take our powerful faith into service of humanity to help others make the journey themselves from darkness into light. Personal love can be raised to a higher level as we radiate our light not just to close loved ones, but to all and everyone. And we find with this degree that the mystery of who we are reveals itself as we serve others. It's all about compassionate service and the raising of love from the level of personal love to sacred love. A Red Cross nurse is just one example of someone who serves. And this whole question of service is something that we have to think about. Is service a requirement of a truly spiritual person? Is it something else? What is service? Is it okay to serve? Is it okay not to serve if you're a spiritual person? These are questions of some relevance. Most people, I have found, who consider themselves to be spiritual people, certainly go out of their way to help others in need, generally speaking. And the frequent example that I've come across, and I think most of us do, is that these people are the people who are perhaps healers in some way. They have a practice, they make themselves available in service of whoever comes, the public. And this is a very popular belief that we need to be in service in order to express spirituality. And I put this question to my Sufi teacher, and his answer was good. He said, it is not a requirement, but it is so commonplace that there's a reason why you can align service with spiritual development. Now, in a world which is fundamentally, it seems, based on self-serving, if we extend the idea of self to include the family and the tribe even, you know, the identification you have might be with one person, myself. It might be a half a dozen, my family, extended family perhaps. But you could take that further to the tribe. But it's still self-oriented. It's still altogether based on the idea of creating a secure future for your own genes. It's that imperative. If you look after yourself and your family, me and mine, as it were, it's a genetic imperative. So this is animal nature stuff. The genes already have the coding of service of our family written into them. In other words, it is generically intelligent to help your brother out and your son and so on, because that keeps your own gene stock alive. So it's no big deal to help your family. It's just normal animal-like behavior. The big deal comes, as in the case of the Red Cross nurse, when you help strangers. And it is suggested that that level of service is what accelerates your spiritual growth. It's not an expression of spirituality so much as a tool of acceleration. This was the basic answer I received. And it opens up the question of altruism, whether altruism is a valid concept. It's a tricky one because it does seem like that, and everybody talks like that, and we behave like that. But if you think it through, serving yourself is serving others. Because as you serve yourself, you clear your own process, you become a better person. It's inevitable that everyone will benefit from that, whether or not you serve any particular individual, and whether or not when you do they're in need. It doesn't make any difference. So if you want to serve, serve. If you don't want to serve, then don't. It doesn't seem to really be a requirement of a spiritual person. So the South Node is in Scorpio 10, a fellowship supper. This is about camaraderie. Sharing in life's activities with others binds us to them not only during the activity itself. There are feelings created that can endure over surprisingly long periods of absence. What occurs during the sharing of our lives is the creation of a group identity with its own personality, beliefs, code of conduct, and atmosphere. This is certainly a real and important aspect of who we are. Our comradeship is a higher order aspect of self-expression and self-discovery. It's worth noting that friendship and fellowship and this sense of camaraderie is actually a healing tool, insofar as people without it become lonely and perhaps depressed, and they can't function very well because they don't have support. And so we see that the first level of movement towards group consciousness and away from self-centeredness, that movement probably begins with family, but it extends into fellowship. So when we reach beyond the family into creating an emotional support group, then we're moving into group consciousness at a higher level. And it's worth remembering that when you set yourself up in a social situation. It's very often the case that a man and a woman and then their kids create a unit, a social unit, and they pretty much live within that. The employment process takes you into other people's company, but your working colleagues are not always the people with whom you'd like to hang out in friendship. So here's this understanding that we need to create for ourselves a fellowship, a group of people whom we have chosen to be with, our friendship circle, if you like. And these people are not family, and they're not employment colleagues. It's a different group, our friendship circle. If we have such a circle, then you will know, perhaps, that it's very deeply supportive. It sort of encourages you to be happier and less lonely and less needy. If you need support, you pick up the phone to one of your friends and you get support. And if you only have one friend, then it becomes rather intense, and the binding force is of a different kind. So what we're talking about here is a circle of friends, a friendship circle. And to celebrate that occasionally, to bind yourself into the community so that you give and you receive in that normal way that we do when we have a cup of coffee with a friend, and listen to their life story, and they listen to ours, and so there's this mutual tea and sympathy aspect. And very often, oh, look, I need a favour done, could you take my kids to school when I'm busy, and I will do that for you, and you can borrow my lawnmower, and so on. That's taken as normal in most societies. It's just worth remembering that it's actually an important aspect of your spiritual development. And if you will perhaps look at the unfolding of your spiritual path, you will see that your friendship circle changes. You don't hang on to the old people that you've known a long time as you unfold. And if your friendship circle now is pretty much the same as it was 10 years ago or something, think about that. I would have thought that there's some development necessary so that what you think of as fellowship evolves, as does your spiritual understanding of life. Often this fellowship is associated with a church. That's the most obvious example. And yet that aspect predetermines the fact that people believe more or less the same thing. And so there's a real limitation on how you are and who you are. You can't really expand outside of the accepted circle of approved behaviour. So if your friendship circle is locked into a belief system, then it locks you into that, whether you think it does or not, whether you're conscious of it or not, it does. Whereas if your friendship circle is based on another quality, where you just hang out with people you like, rather than people that are useful, or they happen to be in the circle of people that believe the same way that you believe. So you go on a different quality, this intuitive heart-centered quality of rapport on a love basis, really. These are the people that form the low-level love, the shallow level of love, which is very profound on a collective level, but not very profound on an individual level. That kind of love is what we're talking about here. And it's real and important. So, as the North Node goes through this point, the South Node, goes through this point, we can just understand that that exists. The South Node is what we already have. So that exists, and we're being asked, I think, to remember that, and perhaps it might be useful to put some energy into that. Pick up the phone and connect with a few people, arrange a night out for a group or something like that, just to reinforce the understanding that this group of people has, that you are a group and that you're actually important to each other. Even though it doesn't sound very profound, it is. And as things become difficult, as they may well do quite soon, that's the group of people that will bind you together into the sense of community. It's much more important than sometimes we remember it is, and we might need to celebrate that remembrance of fellowship during this time.